Good evening, and welcome to Marquis' Victorian Puppet Theater Winter Solstice Extravaganza. I am your host Nasfi, and we have a dreadful show lined up for you. We have tales of the supernatural. We have many restless souls and spirits of all kinds, monster melodies and more. It is going to be a spooktacular evening. So without further ado, let us begin with the festivities.
People nowadays don't believe in ghost stories, but the following thing actually happened to me, and that is why my hair is white. As though not a nervous man, I can never forget that awful night 4 years ago. Then, as now, the old church clock was chiming out the midnight hour. I was sitting in the library, reading a book in which I was much interested, when the thing appeared. It was a horrible night. The wind howled as though all the lost souls in purgatory were screaming through the world the tale of their blood-clotted crimes in the agony of their remorse. The dim candles flickered and spluttered, casting ghoulish, gruesome shadows in the corners of the room that fancy turned to evil spirits, then suddenly went out. Darkness, relieved only by the fitful glare of the slowly dying fire. Then gradually I heard slowly drawing nearer, nearer, the clank, 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 as of someone dragging a heavy chain along the passage. Nearer, nearer it came, and as I listened I felt rather than knew that the door opened, and an icy cold swept into the room, bringing with it a chill not of this earth, but the chill of death. It came nearer, then stopped, and then a moan so fraught with agony that my blood curdled in my veins. Then something touched my shoulder. At that beads of sweat broke out on my head. My tongue clave to the roof of my mouth. I was unable to cry out. Oh, the agony of that moment, sitting there waiting for what would happen next. Silence, deep silence. Suddenly the moon, breaking through the storm-racked clouds, cast a sheet of light across the room. A shriek, a frightful, blood-curdling shriek rang through the house. I turned in my chair and saw, what's that? I found myself on the floor. I had fallen out of my chair, and as I woke up, I'd trodden on the cat.
No sé qué tienen las flores, Llorona. serían mis penas, llorona, que el santo Cristo lloró. No creas que porque canto, llorona, tengo el corazón alegre. No creas que porque yo canto, llorona, tengo el corazón alegre. También de dolor se canta, llorona, cuando llorar ya no se puede. También de dolor se canta, llorona, cuando llorar ya no se puede.
In a particular matter of reform, Stan had repeatedly disobeyed the priest's warnings of drink and sin. As a last resort to cure him, the priest had concluded to scare him. Knowing that Stan would be late going home and he would use a frequented path through the graveyard, the priest took advantage of a newly dug grave and concealed himself within until Stan should appear. Luck was with the priest, for he had hardly gotten into the grave when Stan was heard coming along the path. At the right moment, the priest says, "Whoa, my soul, it cannot rest. My soul, it cannot rest." Stan stopped and sobered up mighty quick. "Good glory! No wonder you can't rest," Stan said. "You're only half buried." And without more ado, he picked up a spade that a gravedigger had left, and with great haste, he began to fill up the grave, covering the priest.
Vanished many a summer ago. the only ghost I ever saw, was dressed in Mechlin, so he wore no sandal on his foot, and stepped like flakes of snow. His gait was soundless, like the bird, but rapid, like the roe. His fashions quaint, mosaic, or, haply, mistletoe. High conversation seldom. His laughter like the breeze that dies away in dimples among the pensive trees. Our interview was transient. Of me, himself was shy, and God forbid I look behind. Since that appalling day,
Won't you step into my parlor? Said the spider to the fly. Yes, the room is bright and cozy, and the hearth is warm and dry. There's a fire that is beginning to send cinders up the flue, and a web that I am spinning for you. Won't you step into my parlor? Said the spider to the fly. You can buzz about forever, 'cause the ceiling's nice and high. And don't even think of leaving till our celebration's through. There's a web that I am weaving for you. See the silken strand, feel the gossamer thread, be a part of the design. And when I am through, yes, the web will be yours, but the pleasure will be mine. Won't you step into my parlor? Said the spider to the fly. You should come a little closer. It's the time to say goodbye. But there's nothing here to frighten. There's no dread in what I do. Just a web that I must tighten for you.
Father! Why, child, you look as pale as a ghost. Now calm yourself. What is it that troubles you? Oh, Father, I did see a ghost. It was so horrifyingly dreadful. What's so dreadful, my dear? I saw a woman in the hall. Well, what can be so dreadful about a woman in the hallway? It was probably a servant. Mrs. Lowry, perhaps, on her evening rounds. It wasn't Mrs. Lowry. I know what she looks like. This woman was different. She was as white as snow, and her face, It was so ghastly, and she...
And she what?
Oh, Father!
There, now, dear, you're not making any sense. You're hysterical. Here, take a sip of brandy and steady your nerves. Now tell me, what else occurred?
Well, this may sound bizarre, but she floated. Yes, you heard me correct. She floated. She floated down the hall and turned and faced me as if to make sure that I was watching, and then passed right through the locked door. It was all quite unnatural.
I'm sure there was some sort of logical explanation, my dear. Now come, show me where this incident took place.
There, the room at the end of the hall.
Yes, that's quite unusual. It's merely just a storage room, and the door's been locked for years. Let me see if I have the key. Ah, here we are. Well, that was odd.
Oh, Father!
Calm yourself. We'll get to the bottom of this. Now, you see, my dear, there's nothing here to frighten you. Just trunks and boxes. I'm sure it was just a figment of your imagination. And it being cold, the door probably opened due to the wood shrinking.
It's her, the woman!
What the devil? I say, you there. Who are you and how did you get in here?
She's pointing to the trunk.
What is the meaning of this? Oh, now where did she go?
The trunk. She disappeared over the trunk. It must mean something.
Well then, let us investigate, shall we? The lid appears to be stuck. Bear with me one moment while I try and open it. Hand me that bar over there. Ah, there we are.
Oh, Father, it's a woman. She's dead.
I'm 9 feet tall and my skin is gray. All the girls scream when I come out to play. They scream and they scream and they run away. I'm one of a kind. Doctor, doctor, you're the one to blame. You put me together, you forgot the name. Sew me a lady, sew me a lady, sew me a monster lady. Just like me. Heart and a dead man's brain. I look in the mirror and it's pure pain. I'm so ugly and so lonely that I'm going insane. Out of my mind. Doctor, doctor, please use all your art. Make me a girl with a dead girl's heart. Sew me a lady, sew me a lady, lady. Just like me.
There is snow on the ground, and the valleys are cold, and a midnight profound blackly squats over the world, while the light on the hilltops half-seen hints of feasting unhallowed and old. There is death in the clouds, there is fear in the night, for the dead in their shrouds hail the sun's turning flight, and chant wild in the woods as they dance round the Yule altar fungus in white. To no gale of earth's kind sways the forest of oak, where the sick boughs entwine by mad mistletoe's choke. For these powers are the powers of the dark, from the graves of the lost druid folk, and mayest thou to such deeds be an abbot and priest, singing cannibal greeds at each devil-wrought feast, and to all the incredulous world shewing dimly the sign of the beast.
Times were hard in Irish town. Everything was going down, and Pat Malone was pushed for ready cash. He for life insurance spent all his money to a cent, till all of his affairs had gone to smash. Then his wife spoke up and said, "Now dear Pat, if you were dead, got $20,000 we could take." Ah, so Pat he lay down and cried to make out that he had died, until he smelt the whiskey at the wake. Then Pat Malone forgot that he was dead. He raised up and he shouted from the bed, "If this wake goes on a minute, the cops they must be in it. You'll have to get me drunk to keep me dead." As the funeral drew near, all his friends did then appear. They all brought flowers and deeds, everyone, but the one that looked the best, and it far outshined the rest, was the handsome thing, 'twas Walter be his son. 'Twas a reed that did look swell, he'd read Papa in blue immortal. 'Twas the prettiest thing on earth you ever saw. When in the door came Pat O'Flynn, he was loaded down with gin, and he knocked the cups and flowers on the floor. Then Pat Malone forgot that he was dead. He raised up with the wreath around his head. The first letter fell away, and left it APA. They jumped on him, now Pat Malone is dead.
One dark night, a man on his way home took a shortcut through a graveyard. Of course, the hour was late. The weather was misty and objects could only be seen through a haze. As he passed along, a ghost came out from behind a monument. It is noted to say that the man was utterly horrified and ran, and he kept running until he was tired out. Then he sat down on the end of a log to collect his composure, and the ghost sat down on the other end. Said the spirit, "Ooh, we had a pretty hard run." The man jumped up and said, I think we shall run some more."
Can't forget this evening. Your face as you were bleeding, but I guess that's just the way the story goes. You always smile, but in your eyes your sorrow shows. living is without you. I can't live, and I can't give anymore. Living is without you. I can't live, and I can't give
She rose among us where we lay. She wept, we put our work away. She chilled our laughter, stilled our play, and spread a silence there. And darkness shot across the sky, and once and twice we heard her cry, and saw her lift white hands on high, and toss her troubled hair. What shape was this who came to us, with basilic eyes so ominous, with mouth so sweet, so poisonous, and tortured hands so pale? We saw her wavering to and fro, through dark and wind we saw her go, yet what her name was we did not know, and felt our spirits fail. We tried to turn away, but still, above we heard her sorrow thrill, and those that slept they dreamed of ill and dreadful things, of skies grown red with rending flames, and shuddering hills that cracked their frames, of twilights foul with wings, and skeletons dancing to a tune, and cries of children stifled soon, all over a blood-red moon, a dull and nightmare size. They woke and sought to go their ways, yet everywhere they met her gaze, her fixed and burning eyes. Who are you now? We cried to her, spirits so strange, so sinister. We felt dead winds above us stir, and in the darkness heard a voice fall, singing cloyly sweet, heavily dropping through the heat, heavy as honey pulses beat, slow word by anguished word. And through the night strange music went, with voice and cry so darkly blent, we could not fathom what they meant, save only that they seemed to thin the blood along our veins, foretelling vile delirious pains, and clouds divulging blood-red rains upon a hill undreamed. And this we heard, who dies for me? He shall possess me secretly, my terrible beauty he shall see, and slake my body's flame. But who denies me cursed shall be, and slain and buried loathsomely, and slimed upon with shame. And darkness fell, and like a sea of stumbling death we followed, we who dared not stay behind. There all night long, beneath a cloud, we rose and fell, we struck and bowed. We were the plowman and the plowed, our eyes were red and blind. And some, they said, had touched her side before she fled us there, and some had taken her to a bride, and some had laid down for her and died. Who had not touched her hair ran to and fro and cursed and cried, and sought her everywhere. Her eyes have feasted on the dead, and small and shapely is her head, and dark and small her mouth, they said, and beautiful to kiss. Her mouth is sinister and red, as blood in moonlight is. Then poets forgot their jeweled words, and cut the sky with glittering swords, and innocent souls turned carrion birds to perch upon the dead. Sweet daisy fields were drenched with death, the air became a charnel breath, pale stones were splashed with red, green leaves were dappled bright with blood, and fruit trees murdered in the bud. And when at length the dawn came green as twilight from the east, all that was heaving horror ceased, silent was every bird and beast, and that dark voice was gone. No word was there, no song, no bell, no furious tongue that dreamed to tell, only the dead who rose and fell above the wounded men, and whispering in wails of pain, blown slowly away the wounded grain, blown slowly from the smoking plain, and silence fallen again, until at dusk from God knows where, beneath dark birds that filled the air, like one who did not hear or care, under a blood-red cloud,
An aged plowman came along and drove his share through flesh and bone and turned them under mold and stone. All night long he plowed. The fog was thick as pitch when Edward Nathaniel departed the Gentlemen's Club on Lowry Street just before midnight. The road was as silent as the grave, the night just as cold. Along his path the shadows grew darker and taller. They seemed to lurch in the corners as if alive, standing in wait to reach out and grab any passerby. Shapeless forms in the fog caused his mind to imagine horrible beasts listening intently for a heartbeat, a sudden movement, a breath, sitting patiently, waiting, hunting for prey. Then he saw one of the forms move underneath the streetlight. His heart raced as he drew nearer. The shape began to take form, the form of a woman, a beautiful woman in fact, perhaps in her late 20s. She was quite tall with fetching blonde hair slightly askew, wearing a long red velvet dress and holding a handkerchief. It was evident that she had exquisite, if not expensive, taste. She stood there alone, her beauty becoming more noticeable the closer he approached. But he noticed a look of concern that marred her features. "Good evening, ma'am. I don't mean to pry, but you look distressed. Are you in need of any assistance?" he asked her. "Good evening, sir," she replied. "Why, yes, I appear to have lost my way. I was visiting my mother and I lost track of the time. By the time I dispatched, the fog was already moving in. I have been unsuccessful in hailing a carriage at this late hour, and I do not wish to trouble you, but if it would not be too much of an inconvenience, would you please help me to find my way home? I would be forever grateful." "Why, it would be my honor," he said as he tipped his head and offered her his arm. The woman bowed in reply and took his arm. "Now, where do you live, if I am not imposing?" he asked. "Garland Avenue." "Ah, yes. That's where the cemetery is located, if I recall correctly." "Yes, you are correct," she said. "Well, you are not too far off. It is just down this street on the right, a mere 5 minutes away. I happen to be walking in that direction," he said confidently. "Oh, thank you so much. I don't know how I could ever repay you." "It is nothing, my dear. Shall we take our leave, then?" "Why, yes, that would be splendid," she chirped. They walked in silence, glancing at each other occasionally. Edward turned to her and spoke. "I am not much of a conversationalist, but this silence feels very awkward. So, have you lived in this area long?" "Yes," she replied, "all my life, and I too must confess that I am not one for idle chatter." "I see. Perhaps a formal introduction is in order, so as not to feel so uncomfortable then," he said as they paused a moment. "Please allow me to introduce myself. I am Edward Nathaniel, proprietor of Nathaniel's Mourning Warehouse. We cater to all needs of mourning." "Pleased to meet you, Edward. I am Beatrice Davies." "The pleasure is all mine," he said, bowing his head. "With the formalities out of the way, shall we continue on our little journey?" "Why, yes," she replied. "The hour is getting late, and I feel quite exhausted." "Let us be off then," he said as they began to stroll again. "I have also lived here for many years. I've always been fascinated by the exquisite architecture in this neighborhood," Edward said as they turned the corner, with the cemetery in sight. "Look, there, for example, at the top of the church," Edward noted as he looked across the street pointing to a feature. "Those gargoyles, did you know that they are not only decorative, but also serve a purpose?" He suddenly felt alone. He looked back to Beatrice, but she had vanished without a trace, not a farewell or even a thank you. He looked around but did not see her anywhere. He saw that he was standing in front of the cemetery gates. He decided to investigate inside, although he could not assume why she would, if at all, go into the cemetery, especially at this hour being so close to her home
if she was exhausted as she claimed to be. As he entered, he spied her handkerchief lying on the ground before an old mausoleum. Its outer walls were discolored with age. Moss and ivy covered the roof and columns. He walked up to the marble tomb in silence out of respect for the dead, and as so not to draw any attention. He observed the handkerchief Beatrice was holding. As he picked it up, he noticed the initials BD embroidered within its fabrics. He then looked up, returning his attention to the mausoleum. He froze in horror. There above the door, carved into its rigid structure, read, Beatrice Davies, born 1834, died 1852.
Youth bent on pleasure to Cairo once came, a sweet maid of Egypt set his heart aflame. Oft in the moonlight he'd lovingly press the form of his little Egyptian princess. Then he whispered to her tenderly, let me take you far across the sea. Ayesha, my sweet Egyptian, lovely beyond description, I want to take you far away from the land of the crocodile. In a fair or stormy weather, happy we'll be together over the Mediterranean Sea, far from the sleepy Nile. Ayesha, my sweet Egyptian, lovely beyond description, I want to take you far away from the land of the crocodile. In a fair or stormy weather, happy we'll be together over the Mediterranean Sea, far from the sleepy Nile.
In old Transylvania, when I was a lad, our castle was cold, yet we never were sad. We learned to be happy, we danced round the hall, and learning to count was the key to it all. By counting each count, I knew just where to start, and one special step stayed close to my heart. 1, 2, 3, spread out the cape. 1, 2, 3, twirl round the floor. 1, 2, 3, left foot you swing. 1, 2, 3, then start to sing. 1, 2, 3, loud as you please. 1, 2, 3, counting with ease. 1, 2, 3, doing the Betty Bat.
Betty, 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 Betty.
1, 2, 3, count. 1, 2, 3, count. 1, 2, 3, count. Won't you dance with me doing the Betty Bat? So now in my own castle I can enjoy this wonderful dance that I learned as a boy. I see just how wise was my whole family. They taught me to count, and so now look at me. I'm counting and dancing, and I swear that it's true. If you do the same, you will be happy too. Come, we try again. 1, 2, 3, spread out the cape. 1, 2, 3, twirl round the floor. 1, 2, 3, left foot you swing. 1, 2, 3, then start to sing. 1, 2, 3, loud as you please. 1, 2, 3, counting with ease. 1, 2, 3, doing the Betty Bat. 1, 2, 3, count. 1, 2, 3, count. 1, 2, 3, count. Dance with me, doing the Betty Bat.
I say, it's a lovely fall evening for a walk. Yes, I fully agree. The sound of the leaves crunching underfoot is quite exquisite. It makes one think of a roaring fire and jack-o'-lanterns. Like the roaring fire in Lady Anthium's loins, perhaps? Oh, James, you can be so disrespectful sometimes. Does someone have feelings toward Lady Anthium? Well, she does cause my heart to flutter. I don't mean to interrupt, but are you sure we're in the right place? Quite certain. Well, how can you be sure? Sir Wolfred sent me an unusual telegram today. It says, and I quote, "Meet me at the Brompton Cemetery at dark." Well, that's odd. I wonder what he is up to. I thought so as well. Perhaps he has some Halloween prank up his sleeve. Excuse me, Charles, I must point out the moon. Look how full she rises. Ah, quite lovely indeed. It does make the path easier to see. Yes, as well as this dreadful cemetery. What was that? I don't know. Perhaps it's Wolfred. Wolfred, is that you? Wolfred? Wolfred! Well, you're not Wolfred. But you're wrong. I am Wolfred. Just the one you never knew.
And a rendezvous. Your eyes held a message tender, saying I surrender all my love to you. Midnight brought us sweet romance. I know all my whole life through I'll be remembering you, whatever else I do. Midnight, where the stars and you.
Thin Lane, whom are you haunting, that you haunt my door? Surely it is not I she's wanting, someone living here before. Nobody is in the house but me. You may come in if you like and see. Thin as thread, with exquisite fingers. Have you seen her, any of you? Grey shawl leaning in the wind, and the garden showing through. Glimmering eyes and silent, mostly. Sort of a whisper, sort of a purr. Asking something, asking it over. If you get the sound from her. Ever see her, any of you? Strangest thing I've ever known. Every night since I moved in and came to be alone. Thin Lane, hush with your knocking. You may not come in. This is I that you hear knocking. Nobody's with me, nor has been. Curious how she tried the window. Odd the way she tries the door. Wonder just what sort of people could have had this house before.
Night and they sought her that day, and they sought her in vain when a week passed away. In the highest, the lowest, the loneliest spot, young love looked so quietly, but found her not. And years flew by, and their grief at last was told as a sorrowful tale long past. And when love appeared, the children cried, see the old man weep for his very bride. Oh, the mistletoe bough, oh, the mistletoe bough. At length an oak chest that had long lain hid was found in the castle. They raised the lid, and the skeleton form lay mouldering there in the bridal wreath of the lady fair. Oh, sad was her fate, it told him yet. She hid from her lord in the old oak chest. It closed with a spring, and her bridal bloom lay withering there in a living tomb. Oh, the mistletoe bough, oh, the mistletoe bough.
Once upon a time in Tyrone there were two little children, the son and daughters of parents who had died when they were little. They missed their parents very much, but they were raised by a guardian who was a fanatical atheist and was determined to convert the children to his beliefs. But they would have none of it, and so they made a childhood pact. The first of them to die would return to prove to the other that life existed after death. While the two grew up to become the Lord of Tyrone and Lady Beardsford, well known and respected nobility. But one day Lady Beardsford awoke to find her sibling standing beside her bed. He told her that he had just died and reminded her of the promises that they had made to one another as children. Then the spirit spoke of the future and told her that her husband would die and she would find love again and have 4 children, all well and good. But then it continued and told her that she herself would die at the age of 47. Of course she was very frightened and suspected she might still be dreaming, so she asked her brother to prove the truth of his words. He reached out one spectral hand and touched her wrist, which turned black and withered, and so it was the next morning. Forever after, she wore a black ribbon to cover the mark. And all that had been predicted came to pass. Her husband died, she did marry again, and she had 4 children. But when her 47th birthday came around, and she didn't die, she heaved a sigh of relief that this piece of wisdom from beyond the grave at least had proven false. For her 48th birthday, she threw a small party as befitted a lady of the time and had some friends around, among them a priest who had known the family for many years. Upon seeing the hangings and hearing people speak of her age, he called her aside with a smile. "Do you know, my dear, your age?" he asked. "Why, of course," she replied. "I am 48. "Ah," he said, tapping the side of his nose. "But you are not. I checked the registry only this morning, and your records were mixed up. You are actually 47, thinking this loss of an extra year would please her. She nearly fainted away and told him that he had signed her death warrant. And with that she went to her rooms, made out a will, and died that very night.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'd like to thank a few individuals before we depart. First and foremost, LuLu's Storage Room for the wonderful creations and friendship, William Westwater of Cops for his legend music and vital support, Fernando Santero for the beautiful music that pours out from his little black soul, I am also told that I must give a shout out to the Viscount Dickinson and Lady Clista. Ceface! And of course to you, the viewers. We thank you for following along with us on our adventures, and we're glad that you enjoy them. It certainly means a lot. So with that, I bid you adieu, and have a safe and healthy holiday season, whatever you subscribe to. Nuapta Buna!